Quick to Malu! He's back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to the film room. Immanuel Quickley returned to action for the Toronto Raptors, and while I think he started out slow, he had a great second half to bounce back for 21 points and doing a couple of really nice things offensively. But the team he's coming back to now has Grady Dick, who is a threat unto himself, and it's going to be exciting to see how these two work together above the break. You can see how their gravity, their individual gravities, caused this drive for Grady. Quick in general was working to find his rhythm, especially in the pick and roll. Here he is, gets downhill, but doesn't recognize the cutting Ochai. This would have been a pretty easy bucket, but Ochai got it on the offensive glass anyways. Same thing here, just not in sync with his teammates, I think. You know, he notices Grady cutting, hits him a little bit too late. Grady doesn't expect it at that time, fumbled basketball. And I think a lot of that is just, not being in sync with one another, not having played a lot over the last couple of weeks. He started out rusty from behind the arc too, missing his threes, and even at times feeling a little hesitant. Here he is off of the swing pass, doesn't really let this one fly, instead attacks the closeout, settles into a tough floater over Zubac. This is one area that I'm really going to harp on all year with Quick, and it doesn't matter if it's his first game back. This is just something that he needs to improve. It's picking up the basketball quickly in pick and rolls. Like, he really killed the possession here, and he really killed any sort of advantage he would try to create by picking up the ball so early. I only bring this up because the expectations are so high with a guy like Quick. Like, we need, the Raptors need him to get into all-star level. These are the things that he needs to do in order to get to that. And while he did pick it up in the second half, there was still some residue of that remaining. If he didn't pick up his dribble here, he would have had a clear lane to the basket. Instead, reroutes it to RJ and then relocates, but is hesitant on the three and instead pump fakes and drives, and it causes a turnover for the Raptors. And so some of that hesitancy early for Quick was bothering him, but I thought whatever happened after this possession, he just started to let it fly. He played more confidently. He let the game flow, which I think was a really important thing for him, especially in the third and fourth quarter of this game. Here he is with a nice pitch to Jakob, goes and gets it, dribble handoff, keeps his dribble alive for the most part, and does a great job of hitting the wraparound pass to Ochai. Ochai missed that one, but man, he was incredible all game knocking down those type of shots. A really, really effective game for one of the best rotation players for the Raptors this season. This is just one example of what the Raptors can run with the shooting gravity of Immanuel Quickley and Grady Dick together. Dribble handoff with IQ. He flows into setting a flare screen for Grady, and that opens up a wide open shot for Grady, but he misses. Ultimately, that just shows you the amount of space that they can create for one another with their own shooting gravity, and that's something that I'm really, really intrigued by. And this is the Immanuel Quickley that I love. Like, in pseudo transition, pull up three, shooting it with confidence, having the confidence to let it fly like that. And you could see that changed the game for him, honestly. Again, pseudo transition, misses this one, but I appreciate the confidence of letting that fly. Same thing here. Great driving gravity by RJ Barrett, opens up Quickley for the three. And, once Quickley gets in rhythm, he'll be able to knock those down consistently. Another great example here of weaponizing Grady and IQ together. Bruno Fernando enters the game. They run a split action with him. And so Grady and IQ screen for each other. IQ slips, and he gets the easy bucket inside. But that's just one example of how you can open up the floor for one another as these two shooters together. I thought IQ's playmaking was much better in that fourth quarter too. Here he is, rejects the screen on the pick and roll, finds a cutting Chris Boucher for the lay-in. Here he is off the bounce against Derrick Jones Jr. in the clutch, takes it all the way, settles for a nice floater over the outstretched arm of Ivica Zubac. That's a great shot. Good job here of stepping through on the screen, keeping his hands low to draw the foul. That is the James Harden foul, the little dig. LaMelo Ball does it a ton, and I'm intrigued by that because I think that's one area where IQ can get better and also showed improvements last year, getting to the free throw line. And in the clutch here, the Raptors run an Iverson cut for IQ. He just rises up over top and nails the three in movement. That is Immanuel Quickley fully actualized, right? Like, that is the full potential version of IQ as a player on this version of the Toronto Raptors. In movement, the shooting threat, the gravity. We actually saw a lot of it in the fourth quarter. His gravity created so many opportunities for the Raptors. And I think that's what you work with when you have the dynamic ability to shoot the ball like IQ does. That's why it's important for him not to be as hesitant as he was when it comes to shooting the ball in the first half. That's why it's important for him to establish himself as a shooter throughout the game so that the Raptors can have this sort of trickle-down effect in their offense. And on this possession, I like the idea of him going one-on-one against Terrence Mann. There is tons of contact, no foul call. And we could talk about fouls for days, folks. We really could. But I'm not here to do the foul game. Y'all know that. I'm not really trying to do that as much. But, Immanuel Quickley returned. I thought it was an uneven game, but it was one where he figured it out. And I think if you're working for developments and wins and losses, like that's the type of game that you're looking for a guy like Quick, especially as he's coming off of an injury, out of the lineup for the last 2 weeks. And I think these last 2 weeks have actually been pretty important for the Raptors developmentally. And that's why it sucks that there's these injuries, because there's going to be the catch-up game for any guy who's missed some time, because these guys are learning on the go. And so they're developing chemistry on the go. And so reincorporating Quick, there were these moments throughout the first half where it's like, oh, that's usually Grady's cut, and now it's Quick's cut. And so Grady needs to figure out where he's going to be in moments like this. Or, it used to be the RJ and Grady screen and roll, the ghost screens, which I had breaking down for a couple of weeks now, but now it's IQ running that. And so where does Grady go in this situation? Or, hey, what happens to RJ in transition when it's IQ pushing it instead of RJ? And so there's these little wrinkles that there is a trickle-down effect for some of this stuff when it comes to the Raptors when reincorporating a guy as important to them as Immanuel Quickley. And so that's the question I have moving forward with a guy like Quick and how they're able to reincorporate him. And then whenever Scotty Barnes comes back in the next couple of weeks, how do they reincorporate him? That's the most important, because, again, in the last 2 weeks, I think the Raptors have discovered that they can put more on Grady Dick's plate offensively. They can allow him to shine. They can be a guy who's, truthfully be a shot creator for them. I think they've realized that RJ Barrett can be more of a playmaker for them. And while they might have known that last season, I think things have changed a little bit. And so reincorporating the two foundational pieces of this Raptors team in Immanuel Quickley and in a couple of weeks in Scotty Barnes, they will have to go through some growing pains of figuring out how this team exactly is going to work with their full lineup. Because I think over the last 2 weeks, they've gotten so used to RJ plus Grady basketball, and they found a formula playing that way that worked for them. And now it's reincorporating this guy, Immanuel Quickley, who's their starting point guard. They have to find a way for him to work with those guys. They do pair well. I just broke down how Grady and IQ can work off of each other. RJ and IQ have been working for years off of each other, so there's chemistry there already. But you still have to go through the motions of figuring that out. And so that comes with its own wins and lessons. And I think we saw that in this game tonight. It was an uneven game overall, to be honest with you. I think the Clippers are a really fun defensive team, with Ivica Zubats and just tons of length on the perimeter with, the Derek Jones Jr.'s of the world and the Terrence Manns and Nicholas Batum's of the world. They just have a lot of guys who can defend and can muck up actions for you, and they can switch 1 through 4, not 5, but 1 through 4. And that makes things harder for the Raptors to get downhill. I thought it made life harder for RJ Barrett, who wasn't able to get downhill, kind of like struggled in terms of the rim gravity aspect of his game. That could have been partially because Quick was handling the ball more too, so we didn't get to see that as often. But that being said, I think part of that was from the Clippers defense and them doing just a really great job of keying in on RJ. They also keyed in on Grady Dick, and I thought Grady had a really good second quarter where he was hitting his shots in stride, was taking what the defense gave him. So, Chris Dunn was top blocking him, so he would cut backdoor or he would try to attack off of a closeout and finish inside. And so some of those things that we've talked about with Grady, he was working through that, and he'll have to continue working through those motions because teams are starting to realize how dangerous of a threat he is. That's why it's so great that Immanuel Quickley is back, because now you have this secondary. I shouldn't even call him secondary. He is now the primary shooter on this team. And there will be more attention added to him, so it alleviates some of that pressure from Grady Dick. For the last 2 weeks, Grady has been number one or number 2 on this scouting report for the Raptors. With Quick back, he's now back to number 3, and when Scottie comes back, he's, number 4. And so I think that will help alleviate some of the offensive pressure off of Grady. I think it'll give him more opportunity to refine some of the other aspects of his game, potentially be on the ball a little bit more and bench lineups and whatnot. But it'll be interesting. I think these next couple weeks, especially as Scottie returns to the lineup, hopefully we'll see. I mean, he's back with the team. It will be interesting to see if they can work out the way this team is supposed to win. And I've mentioned that a bunch, but it is an interesting dilemma because now you're working with guys who are all getting better at the same time, who want all these opportunities and touches at the same time. And it's on Darko Rajakovic to find a way for all of these guys' games to succeed and get to the best possible, outcome. And that's hard. Like, finding ways to maximize everybody when everybody's intention is to grow and develop and get better, that's a very hard task. It's not easy to do. And so I don't envy Darko Rajakovic in trying to figure that stuff out. Truthfully, a couple of strange calls from Darko in this one in the fourth quarter. Again, giving the ball to Jakob twice when the Clippers are up 3, knowing that the Clippers would foul. There was that opportunity. Actually, there were 2 opportunities there. One time with RJ and one time with IQ where they both missed layups with under 40 seconds left. And the Raptors had a timeout to call and draw something out. And I go back to this because I think the Raptors have actually done a really good job of executing out of timeouts. Maybe that doesn't apply during the clutch, but they've shown a tendency, at least the Raptors coaching staff has shown a tendency to not want to call the timeout. I would love to ask why that is and like what the process is behind deciding that, and maybe trusting a young team to figure it out. But it is interesting to say the least. And so I don't know, man. Maybe it's the tank. Maybe they're just like, hey, let's roll with the punches, see what happens. If they win, they win. Great. If they don't, cool. That we're now 2-8. Maybe that's how they're approaching it. Maybe not, right? Again, I think it's important for Darko to develop, if you will, too, and learn how he's supposed to play and coach in these moments as well. And yeah, that's the interesting parts of this game. I want to talk about the fourth quarter though, because the Raptors, a lot of people, especially once Bruno Fernando subbed in, everybody was like, oh, they're waving the white flag. They got a back-to-back tomorrow night. They're trying to rest at this point. They've decided they're not going to win this game anymore. But actually the opposite happened. Bruno Fernando sparked a run for the Raptors. And I want to break that down because truthfully, I don't know how many more times it's going to happen this season. So I want to give love to Bruno while he's here. So Bruno Fernando was a +9 in 9 minutes of action, had 5 personal fouls. It's actually pretty hard to do that. But I thought he did a great job as a screener, diving to the basket, and also did a great job defensively, denying the ball for Zubac, make things harder for him in the pick and roll, containing drivers. Great job stopping Norman Powell here. And again, making things tough on Zubac in the post. Look, the Clippers realize, hey, let's try to take advantage of this situation. Bruno does a great job of holding his own in the post and forces Zubac into a tough shot. Again, holding his own defensively against James Harden, and he forces a tough shot. Raptors get a stop. I mentioned this split action that the Raptors ran, and it was a great read by Bruno to make the pass to IQ. People will think of a lot when it comes to Bruno Fernando. Pick and roll with IQ. He just takes it, little pound dribble, and dunks over Zubac. And so he propelled the Raptors to a run tonight. And the Raptors got back into this game, and we saw the shots from Quickley and whatnot in that fourth quarter. A lot of that was because Bruno Fernando sparked a change. And I thought Jakob Poeltl struggled in this game to deal with the size of Zubac. Ivica Zubac, by the way, a really, really underrated center. I don't think he gets the love that he deserves in the world of centers. He just does a lot of good things well, especially for what you look for from centers when it comes to a rim runner, rim protector, being this kind of lob threat. He's the perfect type of big to play next to James Harden. And so those two work so well together. And I thought Jakob struggled for the most part containing a guy like him, the size, the length, and Jakob, his finishing wasn't there tonight, and so he couldn't pose as much of an offensive threat. He had that shot at the end that missed as well off of the rebound that he tried to get in that would have tied the game. And so things just weren't flowing for Jakob tonight. He's had a great season so far, but tonight was not a good game for him. And Bruno came in and sparked a change. And so it's great that a guy like him can just kind of come in and maybe potentially stir up the pot and change a game. I'm not saying that's going to happen all the time. I don't think that's going to happen all the time. I would be surprised if that happens again. But I mean, I just wanted to shout out Bruno because ultimately, like, I truly don't know if that is something that's going to happen again. He doesn't have a guaranteed date in terms of, money coming in and whatnot in his contract. And so maybe by January, Bruno Fernando is not on this team. And so while he is here, wanted to give him his flowers. Shout out to Bruno Fernando for hooping tonight. If there was, I know there's the Hello and Welcome podcast as the Reggie Jackson Award. He would win the Reggie Jackson Award here, okay? Because he was awesome in this game and in the fourth quarter. It was actually unbelievable to watch. I started working on the recap. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to talk about IQ's return, but no, Bruno came back. That was just marvelous stuff. And so look, I don't have much else to say. You guys know what this season is at this point. Wins and lessons. They're figuring things out. I think the one point that I wanted to bring up to you guys is that the Raptors will probably go through a bit of a growing pain process as they work in IQ and then as they eventually work in Scotty Barnes, because this team is developing on the go. And so RJ and Grady had this great rhythm going on, great connection, awesome, cool. Let's bank that for a second. And now let's incorporate this guy, Immanuel Quickley, who's going to take up a chunk of usage and touches. How are we going to blend that with what these guys bring? And I think that's the question that the Raptors will have to deal with moving forward. I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily. Actually, this is what development is, but it's just something that will be interesting to track moving forward, especially as Scotty gets back into the lineup, because as we know, Scotty is the star of this team. He will demand the most usage. He will demand the most touches on this team. And so how do all of these guys work together to play winning basketball? That is what the Raptors are trying to figure out this year. They're 2-8 so far, still haven't got a road win. It's been tough in the win column. And the NBA Cup is coming up next week, Tuesday. We got the Lakers tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you watch this thing. As always, folks, like, subscribe, do the things you guys do. Check out Samson Folks' new video on Grady Dick and the one unstoppable play that he has. It was really, really well done. Had Mario music on it. What a guy. Go check it out. Do your thing as always. Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for the support. Go check out the Mo Pete video. I've seen the statistics. It says that most of you guys are not interested in that video, but I'm telling you, man, it's a cool video. Anyways, take care, guys. Have a good one.